want us to know where that money is going. They don't want us to know how it's being used. They don't want the corruption that continues in to be exposed. They don't want us to know the truth. They just want us to continue to support them writing this with this blank check, essentially, without any justification, and tearing people down who just say, hold on a second. How does spending hundreds of billions of dollars of our money help us? How does it help the American people? How does it help our national security interests? It doesn't help us, and it undermines our national security interests, because the consequence of this that we are directly facing because of the Biden administration and the warmongers in Washington is we are now closer to the brink of nuclear war than ever before.
Yeah.
How has that made us safer? It hasn't.
And 10% for the big guy.
The fact that no Democrat in Washington, that I've heard, at least, and I've been watching pretty closely, has stood up and said, well, hold on a second. All of this evidence that's coming out, more and more evidence that's coming out about the corruption of Hunter Biden and President Biden's culpability in that entire mess. No one is saying, hey, we should probably look into this. They're dismissing it all and saying, the only thing Joe Biden talked about with Hunter Biden's, Ukrainian Burisma executive counterparts, they talked about the weather.
In the neighborhood of $20 million that they got from that, from these dealings?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I've heard has been accounted for.
Yeah.
But then, you hear all kinds of things like, oh, well, how is it that, Joe Biden's grandchildren have $5 million in their trust account? Like, where does that, I don't know. But the fact that they're not even... That there's not just an accepted standard in Washington saying, well, these accusations are being made. There is evidence in communications, written evidence that couldn't have been fabricated. We, as elected representatives of the people, have a responsibility to objectively investigate this and see where it leads.
And same in Hawaii, right?
Her friend is an art dealer, and he told her that art is I think she said one of the most used platforms or vehicles for money laundering. And when this was said within the context of how is it that Hunter Biden can sell a piece of art for $500,000,
right?
$1 million.
Boom.
So this is what I mean when you look at so how much money are they actually accounting for that's going directly into his bank account or whatever? I think you got to look at the whole picture. Yeah,
and you also have to say, who's buying it?
Yeah.
Who are the people buying it?
Exactly.
What are their connections?
Right.
Is it an LLC that's purchasing this from some sort of a offshore account? Like, what's going on?
Right.
Where's that money coming from?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the fact that the mainstream media, those two whistleblowers from the IRS investigative agents who came out and said basically they were stopped from doing their job and looking into Hunter Biden by their superiors. The fact that the mainstream media called them so-called whistleblowers, immediately undermining what they were actually doing, putting their entire career and reputation and safety on the line, was again straight out the gate. If you're not falling in line with what the power elite, Democrat elite, wants you to do, and their partners in the media, you are immediately discredited.
And when people, what is this here, Jamie? Another unknown single buyer purchased 11 Hunter Biden paintings for $875,000. That buyer has reportedly purchased the majority of a $1.38 million total in sales.
He likes art.
Yeah.
Got a big fan.
He's a big fan. The gallery sets the pricing and handles all sales based on the highest ethical standards of the industry. Well, the industry doesn't have high ethical standards. So it's like if you're the ethical standards of the industry of pimping, you have to have high ethical standards.
That's what I said, and does not disclose the name of the buyer to Hunter Biden.
But just what they did with the laptop story, the fact that they suppressed it from Facebook, they suppressed it from Twitter, they did all that. And when Zuckerberg was on the podcast and he said the FBI had contacted them about that, That was a sobering moment. I
Yeah.
was like, wait, what?
Yep.
And then when the Twitter files come out, and then you read that, and the 51 former intelligence agency guys that had signed off on that,
Yep.
that this was Russian disinformation when they had known it wasn't.
That right there, when you talk about interference with our elections,
Yeah.
when you look at some of the stuff the media is talking about, and you see what happened there weeks before that 2020 election, I think that the whole that letter came out from the 51 former senior intelligence officials in October, just prior to the November election in 2020, stating this laptop has has all the
earmarks.
hallmark of
Hallmarks, yeah.
of Russian disinformation based on nothing. And then you go back and you look at, well, why was that letter instigated? Well, then, whatever campaign senior advisor Tony Blinken to Vice President, or I guess former Vice President Biden, made a call. He made a call to Mike Morrell within the CIA, or former deputy of the CIA. And then he called a friend, and there was a CIA staffer, an active CIA staffer, who helped orchestrate that letter within like a 24-hour period of time. And this is all on the record. This is all Mike Morrell said this to Congress in private testimony that's since been released. But this was instigated because the Biden campaign told him, "Hey, we need Joe Biden to have a good talking point to use in this next debate against Trump, because we know Trump is going to bring up Hunter Biden's laptop, and we need to give Biden a talking point so that he can immediately dismiss the whole topic of the Hunter Biden laptop." That letter from the 51 senior former intelligence leaders gave him that talking point. He used it in that debate, and it's what was used as the excuse to shut down the New York Post and to shut down anyone who tried to publish the contents of that laptop.
It's wild.
For national security reasons.
It's wild, and there's no repercussions.
There's no repercussions, but you want to talk about interference in our election. You
Yeah.
withheld information from voters that may have, some would say very likely would have, persuaded them to not vote for Joe Biden.
And the people on the Democrat side, they are so against Trump that they would happily take that,
Yes.
and that they don't care.
No qualms.
It doesn't bother them.
Nope.
They're like, look, it did what we wanted it to do. Joe Biden got into office.
Right.
Better than Trump.
It's about them. It's
Yeah.
about their power.
And the true believers are like, yes, better than Trump, better than Trump, better than Trump. Whew. Trump's a Russian agent. They'll say all this crazy stuff that they just also heard spit out by
Right.
the propaganda
And the facts
machine.
don't matter at that point.
Hey, woman. Since your man ain't got no heart, why don't you go to my apartment tonight and I'll show you a real man.
There you go.
What? What? Fuck you.